trip is off to an interesting start. I was flying the drone while Christine was driving and it lost connection, and I can't seem to get it back. So we are driving back down to where we launched it from, and we're gonna hope that it is landed itself down there. So fingers crossed, but yeah, already off to a bit of an adventure, a little earlier than we were anticipating. So we'll see what we find. Hopefully we find this drone. Well, I think we lost our drone, unfortunately. We lost connection and we gained it back. I almost had it and then we totally lost connection, and I think it tried to return to home. The last pictures I have of the recording on the phone here looks like it flying itself into the side of a cliff. That's super unfortunate. We had a pretty good run with this drone. I guess it's bound to happen when you fly drones that you're gonna crash. And today was that day. So I guess that's the beginning of our adventure. Not what we had planned exactly, but I think we shouldn't let it deter us. What do you think?
Onward.
Onward. So anyway, no more drone shots for this video. We might be able to pull some off this phone, but man, that's a bummer. But anyway, let's continue on. With the sting of losing the drone still fresh, we tried to occupy our minds with exploration, taking the opportunity to explore spur roads we came across to see where they'd lead. And as is typical for spur roads, where they led was a mixture of great dispersed campsites, dead ends, and some fun obstacles to navigate. Flashbacks to the Olympic Peninsula on that road. This one is definitely not as bad, not as tight, but hopefully when we get to the end of it there will be a killer spot. There's an amazing spot that we just passed by with a huge view of Mount Rainier, but somebody was already there. Somebody beat us to it. So we're gonna see if we can make it to the end of this road, and at the end of this road my hope is that there's another good site with a view of Rainier, and this road maybe is a little too tight for a lot of people to want to come down here. So at least that's what I'm telling myself. Hopefully there's a payoff at the end of this, and it's not just turn around, but we will find out here in a little bit. The further we ventured down this road, the tighter and rougher it got. Eventually though, our persistence to push on was rewarded when the road dead-ended at a clearing with Mount Rainier dominating the skyline. We have found a spot to set up camp for the night. I'm pretty excited about this site. We're right at the end of a spur road, so it's super quiet. I don't anticipate anybody coming down here. It was pretty narrow and a little bit rough, but that means I think we have this whole area to ourselves. What's really cool about this site though, is that we might be the closest dispersed camping that you can get to Mount Rainier National Park because we're about 1,000 feet away from the park boundary, which is just that way. And we have Mount Rainier, which is massive right in front of us. I will say the only downside to this site, and it's kind of true of a lot of sites in the National Forest, is there's just a lot of trash. There's shell casings, there is plastic and junk kind of strewn about. So we're gonna do our very best to clean it up. We're gonna try and leave this place better than we found it. But just a little public service announcement, if you are coming out here to enjoy the land, just clean up after yourself. It's really not that difficult. Let's all be adults, let's enjoy this land, but let's clean it up, let's make it look good, because the last thing we want is for it to get shut down. So anyway, I'll get off my little high horse, but yeah, we're just gonna enjoy the evening. We're gonna enjoy being right in front of Mount Rainier, make a little bit of dinner, but seriously, y'all, check out these views. So what's for dinner tonight?
Tonight, I am making some ground beef. I've got some cheese and really good salsa, guac, sour cream. We're gonna make nachos for dinner tonight.
You know anything about nachos? Yes.
5 minutes later.
It may not be super fancy, but there are few things I enjoy eating more at camp than camp nachos. I mean, come on, look at that. Good morning. Man, we got a beautiful morning this morning. It's a lot less hazy than it was last night. The sun right now is just coming up and illuminating Mount Rainier. So it's gonna be a beautiful, beautiful morning. And this morning, I am going to answer a question that I've got a couple of times now, and it involves that and making coffee. And so people ask, can you make coffee on the Scottle? And the answer is yes, you can make coffee, and I have made coffee on the Scottle, and it does work. You basically just put your kettle or your percolator right on there, and it heats it up for you. But I'm not convinced that it is the fastest way to make coffee. So I'm going to do a little test this morning. On the Scottle, I have a kettle for Christine's tea, and then for my coffee, I am going to use this, which is a pocket rocket hooked up to some butane. It's basically a little backpacking stove, but it throws out a ton of heat. So I'm curious to see which one's going to boil fastest. The kettle should. It usually does. It has about half the water the percolator does. But let's see what happens in the name of science. All right, a little update on Battle Scottle versus Battle Pocket Rocket. My coffee in the percolator has already started to perk, which is actually pretty incredible. It's only been on there for like 3 minutes, so that's actually faster than it would have done on the Coleman stove. This Pocket Rocket is impressive. And Christine's kettle over here on the Scottle, is it starting to boil? Not quite. Not quite starting to boil yet. So, but it does work. It absolutely works. Probably take maybe, just a little longer than a traditional stove. And the Pocket Rocket looks like it actually would take less time than a traditional stove. So there you go. We learned something new this morning.
Jeff and I are just watching these clouds come up over the trees, and the wind's starting to pick up, so it's actually pretty cool to see the clouds come in super quick over the trees, and then just as they get above our campsite, they almost burst like fireworks in the sky, and they end up spreading out, and it just looks super cool. We're just hanging out, watching them, taking our time this morning because there's just so much to take in. Views of Mount Rainier, these clouds coming up over the trees, the sun starting to come up over the mountain. It's been a nice quiet morning. All right, Jeff, what's for breakfast?
We've got an impromptu breakfast scramble going for breakfast. We were supposed to do breakfast burritos, but we kind of forgot the tortillas. So we threw some tater tots that we'd cooked at home. We threw those on first, fried them up a little bit. We got some breakfast sausage in there, just threw some egg on there, put some cheese in there, and we'll top it off with some salsa. So again, oh, and the taco meat from last night, the leftover taco meat. It's one of those use everything in the fridge sort of situations right now. But I'm pretty happy about it. I think this is gonna work well. Scrambles and stuff like this just work so well on the scuttle. So yeah, hopefully it tastes as good as it looks. This area that we're out exploring just south of the town of Greenwater certainly has not disappointed. It is absolutely beautiful out here. There is a ton of potential options for camping, tons of Forest Service roads, and this site that we settled on and a few others we passed have magnificent views of Mount Rainier. I mentioned it earlier, but we're only about 1,000 feet away from the national park border just south of us. So we're dispersed camping probably about as close as one can to Mount Rainier National Park, which is super cool. I had to, now that the sun is out, change into an appropriate shirt given our campsite, but I wish I could show you more of the views. I wish I had the drone to get up and fly, but as you saw yesterday, unfortunately, the drone is no more. But anyway, I want to thank you for watching this video. And if you enjoy camping, exploring, and overlanding in the Pacific Northwest, then I would encourage you to check out this playlist because we have a ton more videos of us exploring around the Pacific Northwest so they can inspire you to find some great spots. Anyway, thanks for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed. Until next time.